This program is for discussion and educational purposes only. Guest views are their own and do not represent endorsement by this channel. This episode does not promote or encourage illegal, harmful, or dangerous activity. Viewer discretion is advised.
There are 20 people that control the entire world, but no one knows who they are because they never come out in public, and no news report ever mentions about them. So this is why we don't know who they are, but they have strong psychic abilities.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome back to the Ryan Files. Tonight's conversation steps into territory most people would rather pretend doesn't exist. I don't always agree with Samuel Chong's worldview, and I absolutely do not condone any occult or ritual practices discussed in this episode. But here's the uncomfortable truth. There are belief systems, secret networks, and hidden philosophies operating in this world that influence power, money, politics, and culture, whether we agree with them or not. Ignoring that reality doesn't make it disappear. Tonight, we explore the claims behind a controversial book that alleges a secret hierarchy shaping world events from the shadows, including the strange disappearance of its alleged author just before 9/11. You don't have to believe everything you hear, but you should understand how the people who believe this think, because they believe they're shaping the future. This is the Ryan Files. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this week on the Ryan Files. Great episode tonight. What if a man who reached the highest levels of the secret lodges running the world decided to tell the truth? What if he vanished the night before the world changed forever, right before 9/11? Tonight, translator Samuel Chong rejoins the Ryan Files to unpack 334% lies. The revelation of HMV Stuhl, one of the most disturbing, hidden, and possibly authentic accounts of how secret societies actually work. Thank you so much for joining me again, Samuel.
And thanks for having me again.
So this book is interesting, to say the least. We talked a little bit about it before we came on. You translated it, which is from German to English. I'm assuming any other languages?
Just English,
Okay.
because the people in China are not ready.
Okay, I understand. Why does this book matter? How did you find it? And why did you say, hey, the world's got to know about this?
As you know, I was very into the other book, Theory About Prophecy, and that book talks about auras, or the human energy fields, saying that if you can see the auras, you can tell if a person is lying or not, or if a person has any physical illness that's going to manifest in the physical body. And then I was looking to ways or methods to see the colors of auras. So searching online and interviewing and talking with aura readers all the time. And then one day I found online that there is a forum that talks about this book, but it says that it's in German language. If you want to learn how to read auras, you'll be able to have to read in German. So I thought that's a very interesting book because the descriptions match a lot of the descriptions that mentioned by the aura readers, the ways that they developed to read auras. So I checked the book out. I didn't speak German, and I still don't speak German. So I used the machine translation tool to translate the book into English. And then I contacted the copyright holder because I think the information has to get out, because the book contains a lot of the really important information that people don't know about yet. So I decided to do that. So that's how I found the book.
And very interesting, very interesting. I want to get into the aura thing and this energy thing. I just want to hear what you have to say about it. But when you were talking about, hey, I'm going to translate this to English, I want this to get out. Did you, because this book seems to have a lot of pushback. Did you get any pushback based upon you wanting to translate it into English?
I mean, the copyright holder was very happy for me to do this, and he welcomed the idea, so I just sent him my translation. However, as I decided to do this, I was almost wanting to remove certain chapters or certain pages in the book because it has so many disturbing descriptions about the rituals, the initiation ceremonies that they performed, torturing and killing people. So I think those parts were really offensive to a lot of the people. I wanted to remove those parts. But on the other hand, I really wanted to let people know how evil this group is, and also to really reveal the truth. Because once you know the truth, you know how to respond to the some of the incidents that people may encounter in their lives.
Yeah.
So that's my struggling process. The conflict really was deep in my head, in my mind, and then finally I decided to release the whole translation of the entire book.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, sometimes you got to, that's the thing in today's world, man. There's a lot of stuff hidden from us. And sometimes to wake up, you got to hear the truth. And so I appreciate you doing this. I do. Uh, this guy, HMV Stuhl, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm assuming that's not his real name. He's the author, but I'm assuming that's not his real name.
That's not his real name. That pseudonym or pen name is actually in German language means the high master of the chair. He actually reached the highest level of the lodge, the secret society that actually controlled, or maybe still controls the entire world.
Wow. Are we talking like all secret societies from, Illuminati, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, all these different societies? Is that what we're talking about?
No, no, this is a very serious and hidden secret society. It's very different from the Rosicrucians or the Masonic organization or the Illuminati for that matter, because I actually asked the copyright holder whether the author belonged to the Illuminati, and the response was no, because the Illuminati was some kind of obvious that people can still find their people in Germany, but the people in this lodge organization are unknown by the public. And actually, I asked the copyright holder just to give me the real name of the author, the high degree chair, and he did. And I searched his name online on Google, on Bing, on Yahoo, on the Russian search engine Yandex, and the Chinese search engine Baidu, and nothing came out. So the name is a regular German name and with a very unique last name, but no result came out. So that's
Really?
very strange. And also in the book, it says there are 20 people that control the entire world, but no one knows who they are because they never come out in public, and no news report ever mentions about them. So this is why we don't know who they are, but they have strong psychic abilities.
Ah, interesting, interesting. Now, this guy disappeared in 2001. The book was released in 2000. Boom, he disappears in 2001. And this was kind of his, like, if I'm not mistaken, kind of his, I'm getting out, but I'm going to leave this behind. We don't know what happened to him, if he was killed or if he just disappeared or whatever. Is that correct?
That's correct, because the copyright holder received a phone call from one of the assistants of that person, of the author, saying that he is no longer with us. So that's kind of a vague language, saying that he is no longer with us doesn't mean that he is dead. Or actually, you know what? After reading the book and after meeting the copyright holder, I actually sincerely wished that he's still around with us because he finally had a transformation from from the most evil person in the world to someone that really wants to contribute to a more peaceful world.
Interesting. Interesting. And of course, this is right before 9/11 that he disappears. And we see I mean, I think if you just go back from a pure historical standpoint, you look at the world pre 9/11, you look at the world post 9/11, that was a definitive moment of change that affected not just the United States, but just, I think, as a chain reaction, the rest of the world.
Exactly, and also to a lot of the people in China. And I think that event is something that's predicted or planned by this group of people. I believe that there is a group of people that's behind everything that happened on that day.
Yeah. Well, it was certainly planned. And, we get sketchy information, I guess, from the news. You're not allowed to talk about it that much. And certainly the day there was some anomalous things that happened. But all that being said, very interesting timing for this man's disappearance, no longer here. Um, so this lodge, you know, being the fact that it's hidden, there's a lot of, lodges out there, like we talked about Freemasons and Illuminati and Rosicrucians and all these different quote unquote secret societies. But you're saying this is a different one. What's the structure of power like in those and the recruitment process and everything else?
So in terms of the recruitment process, he was actually invited or lured into the organization, the lodge. He did not want to really join any organization in the very beginning. He saw a very mysterious but very beautiful looking girl when he was studying in college in Germany. And then in order to approach the girl, he kind of wanted to cater to the girl's wishes. And the girl actually invited him to attend a party in which he did attend. And then he was introduced to the so-called uncle or like a mentor of the author. And then according to this book, you can read the details and how everything went. He began to move up the ladder and to increase his degree levels. In terms of the structure, I mean, the lodge has this masters, and they control the most important people in the world. For example, the leaders of business organizations or main politicians, the main political leaders of the world. And then the middle level people control the local politicians. And then some of the other smaller or lower level people, they control some of the people like social influencers. So they have different structures to manipulate or directly or indirectly control the people at different levels. So this is how they manipulate and try to influence the decisions made by those people that they control.
Right. And also, I'm assuming, like you said, social media and everything else, like you're controlling information. And, that's power, that really is. Whenever you can control the narrative, control what's out there, control politicians and policy and everything else, that's power.
Yes, and they don't just control them using their psychic abilities. They also use a lot of social engineering techniques. For example, when actually the book gives some examples using kind of manipulation of the mind, making the maybe like a public servant believe that they're doing the right thing when in fact they're doing what they want, the people in the lodge want, and then and they don't break the rules. They just want them to believe that they're just doing something good for the people in the lodge. And they, of course, they don't know what the lodge people wanted to achieve at the end, but they do that in a very, very subtle way. And if that doesn't work, then they would use psychic abilities, for example, mind control, to really get themselves into the minds of the people and to project certain images or maybe just to manipulate their behaviors. And once they manipulate their behaviors, then they inject memories of their actions that they performed so that they wouldn't discover that something was odd happening. Only their assistant would think, oh, this person just today is not like him. And so this is something that's mentioned in the book. And when you read the book, you're going to discover that a lot of the descriptions may seem to be like fiction to a lot of the readers who are not familiar with the psychic abilities. For example, the book talks about when he went to New York, the North American branch of the lodge, and he wanted to show off. And then, but the thunder was stolen by another person. Now, he actually materialized or manifested diamonds onto the hands of each attendees. But then the person in North America changed the diamonds into a flying bird. So this is kind of something that we would think is unimaginable, something that's very out there. But if you really read into the book, you're going to discover that a lot of the things can actually be performed by people who have such magic abilities. For example, in India, there is a great master called Sai Baba. He would be able to manifest objects out of thin air. And I think this is kind of the ability that people can practice and achieve. And so this is a very interesting book in which people may believe that this is science fiction, but I sincerely believe that the things mentioned in the book are true accounts of what happened to the author.
Interesting. Do you feel that this in any way, shape, or form is, you use the word magic, any way, shape, or form connected to the occult?
Yes, and actually, the author was able to develop the abilities using some of the occult practices. For example, he was able to see the auras of people very easily after a certain practice, and then he was able to use a specific form of astrology and numerology to predict what's going to happen in the future, the probabilities of the future, as well as what happened in the past. He could actually see the past. And actually, in the book, it describes how he was meditating and then seeing all the different possibilities of the future. And he would play around and change certain event in the future and see the consequences after the change of that event. And he would play around just like um, looking at the different possibilities of different branches of future events. And there are also occult practices in which they use numerology and also have psychic warfare because they have to defeat their like colleagues in order to move up to a higher degree. So they use occult techniques to really defeat one another, to compete with one another. There are a lot of very interesting things mentioned in some of the occult books, but not exactly. There are different methods that are very unique.
Yeah. Wow. Because, you hear about all this stuff, but, occult practices where this stuff, is real. A lot of people don't like to go down that road. I don't even like to go down that road often myself, but like there is a reality to some of this stuff that a lot of people think is just science fiction. But there is a reality to it. There's also probably a price that has to be paid to get these different abilities, no doubt about it. But you know, I'm sure that some sort of there's got to be, like, you just don't go from a college student who has a crush on a chick to suddenly getting into this lodge. There has to be more to it. There has to be like hey, this person right here is one that we want to get, or something like that. And there's probably got to be different steps of initiation and control, even of these people who are potential initiates, right?
Yes, actually, he was chosen to be lured into the lodge because, according to the book, in one of his past lives, he was a pharaoh in Egypt.
Hmm.
And then his assistant back then in his past life was actually the former chair of the lodge, who was also his mentor, his uncle, the German word which is uncle, and Oheim, which is uncle. And then so this is what happened with that is I'm just guessing or speculating that the Oheim, the uncle, saw his auras and saw his past lives and determined that this is the person who has the potential to be the leader of the lodge and have the psychic abilities or the memories of the past that can be uncovered more easily than anyone who didn't have past lives. So this is the reason why he was chosen, so that he was led one way or another to become the highest degree chair of the lodge.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting. There's a concept that you talk about, comic, the corporate oligarchy, military industrial intelligence complex. Um, what is that? And tell us a little bit more about what that is and what it means in this book.
Well, the book talks about how they influence all the major corporations and they cause conflicts in the world. So they play kind of like both sides of the war. So they supported, for example, KKK or mafias. At the same time, they also supported anti-racism movements. So they supported both sides of the war. and their motto is to divide and rule, divide and conquer. So this is how they operate in order to profit themselves. Because it says that the politicians come and go because they have term limits. However, the people who really control everything remain in the dark, behind the scenes. So this is how they are able to keep their control for a long time. And also, if you really want to read into this, I actually interned with or under Danny Xian, a very famous lawyer in the U.S. who was involved in the Iran-Contra case, the Watergate case, and also some of the other well-known cases in U.S. history. And he actually revealed that there's a group of people that really worked inside of the government, sometimes in, sometimes out of the government. And most of these people are members or hold positions in the three-letter agencies. And these people have a hidden agenda, and they were involved in the Watergate scandal. They were involved in the Iran-Contra scandal or incident, and also some of the major incidents such as JFK. Yeah, so if you want to really learn about who is really involved in the conspiracies within the government, you can read more about the works of Danny Xian. And I think this group of people that mentioned in the book directly or indirectly influence those kind of people that were involved in some of the main events in US and world history. So I think this is why when we talk about the military-industrial complex, and they actually cause conflicts in the world in order to profit themselves, and they are directly or indirectly controlled or influenced by people in the occult world. For example, the members of this lodge.
Very interesting. You're basically talking, Samuel, about the deep state, whatever that is. You know, people refer to it just in a general broad sense as the deep state. That includes families or whatever, or this lodge that, are secretly pulling strings around the world. This includes government, deep-seated government positions that aren't elected, but are there for years and years and years and decades. And that's basically what we're talking about here, right?
Yes, exactly. And also, this group of people also manipulate the financial institutions. When we think about the central banks in the US, I mean the Federal Reserve Bank or system, then we frequently believe that it's a public institution. However, it's actually private. It has shareholders, and the shareholders are members of the main banks in the US. And when we think about the central bank in the world, it's not just the Fed, it's also the central banks in other countries like Japan, like in Europe and things like that. And then they form an organization called the International Bank of Settlements, the BIS, Bank of International Settlements. And so that's actually headquartered in Switzerland. There's a Dutch banker that used to work for members of the Illuminati that actually revealed how the financial system works in the world. BIS, Bank of International Settlements, is actually the main organization that members of the Illuminati or the secret societies control, because they use this institution to really control the supply of money. And they have a lot of secret occult practices. And Ronald Bernard actually reveals that the reason that he was awakened because one of the practices that they performed was to sacrifice people, especially children. And he loved children, and that really got to him. He decided to break away from their practices or their organization. And then he was followed and people tried to kill him, and he had a near-death experience. This is why he decided to reveal everything. But I think this book, 334 per thousand lies, is actually more revealing than what Ronald Bernard says, because it actually reveals how they achieved their psychic abilities or the supernatural abilities to influence people in the world or the main leaders of the world.
That's crazy, and I've been studying this for a while, and you find it again and again and again and again, this common thread. Where there's power structures in the world, there's right behind it is some sort of occult connection. And it's really fascinating that it stays hidden. And I think most people I know, most Americans would be like, oh, that can't be true. But it's there again and again and again. It's like hiding in plain sight too. If you care enough to look, it's there in the historical record.
Exactly. And the book actually talks about how the author thinks that all the people who don't know about this, how stupid they are.
Yeah.
So if you read the book, you're going to feel the attitude of the author. He is actually very arrogant.
Yeah.
Because if you really think about it, if you can read auras and interpret the auras correctly, you can immediately tell whether a person is lying to you or not, whether the person is going to live a long life, or whether a person has a very pure mind. And if you know that, you're going to feel very arrogant, very proud that you can actually control everything. You have very omnipotent powers. And so this is how the author portrays himself to be a very proud and arrogant person. And he believes that everyone, we are in the dark, so we are stupid people because we are not careful enough to look at what's really happening around us. And the book tells an example in which a woman disappeared, and she was actually married. She is actually married, and then her husband really doesn't really want to know what really happened to her, and when he was told that she was thinking about breaking up or having like another her own like agenda or journey to explore something new, and her husband believed the people who told him about this and didn't really investigate further. So this is a very unique story in which it illustrates how people are so ignorant to the changes and things that happening around us. And I want to say that I was one of them as well, because when 9/11 happened, I thought it was an attack on American soil. So I didn't really think further. But nowadays, I kind of want to question everything that happens in a strange way. So this is something that I'm still learning. And if you have any, or the audience has any guidance or suggestions, I'm eager to learn something new as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think that there was a day in time, Samuel, where you could put the narrative out in the press and most people, would just buy it hook, line, and sinker. And we saw that certainly 9/11 and in other instances. Even today, people just will believe whatever the news is telling them. We know that stuff gets manipulated or only one side of a story gets told and whatnot. You can see it everywhere, certainly here in America. But the bottom line is, yeah, I do wonder what the next thing is, because I think for a long time it was like, well, we can just control the narrative, we can control the story, and these people, they're not going to seek out the truth. But I think that there are more and more people waking up, and I wonder what the next level of obfuscation is going to be, because it doesn't seem like for everyone the same old thing is working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And I think the next thing is for people to realize what is happening around the world. They have to have the curiosity to seek for the truth, seek for knowledge. And I think this book, even though it's highly disturbing, and I strongly suggest people to skip the parts that they find offensive and to read the rest of the book, because it actually reveals how they operate and actually a solution to all the events that happened in the past, which is to really unite and be interested in having a collective movement using the mind as a guidance, because the members of the secret societies, they are afraid of the power of the people, because even though they have highly developed psychic abilities to control people's mind, they're afraid of the unleashed power of the people. Because when we find out, we can just organize ourselves and to put everything, our goals into one thought. And that power is unimaginable. And this is what they're afraid of.
yeah, yeah, very interesting. Let's talk about these psychic abilities. You know, what you're describing, Samuel, is, I mean, let's face it, it's no less than a superpower. I mean, you can imagine a superhero that can read minds and you know manipulate people's thoughts and actions and whatnot. That's a pretty powerful thing. Um, what define exactly what these psychic abilities are, and perhaps what they have to go through, as much as you can say, to obtain some of these abilities.
One of the most important psychic abilities that they developed is to see the auras of the people.
Okay.
And the book actually details how they are able to achieve that. And through meditation and also practice of looking at their colleague or members of the lodge into their eyebrows. And then after like 20 minutes or so, or 30 minutes or so, staring at each other, they're able to see each other's auras or past lives for that matter. So I tried it, but I still cannot see the auras. But he was able to do so. I think that's probably because he had this kind of memory from his past lives or ability from his past lives to do so. So this is one ability. Once you're able to read auras, you're able to really tell a lot of things about the person. And for people who are interested, they can read the books written by Barbara Brennan, former NASA scientist who wrote the book Hands Up Light. And she was able to develop the abilities of reading auras or the colors of the human energy fields just by walking in the woods. And she didn't do that intentionally. She was in a very relaxed state of mind. And then she saw the colors of the trees and also the colors of the people around her. And she was able to tell whether a person is having liver issues or things like that. And then they also used a form of astrology. And normally, we would just give the birth chart or birth date and location to an astrologer. But for the members of the lodge, they are able to calculate the locations of different planets at a given moment of time using a very simple formula. And it's actually mentioned in the book, in the appendix of the book. So they're able to recognize the aspects of the different locations of the planets and to tell if a person is going to have certain luck or misfortune at a certain given time. And then as he meditated, he was also given a lot of images of the past and future. So this actually is very interesting, is that when he was meditating, he was given the information or knowledge that everything has a positive and negative except for the creator. And this is very similar to what Queen Sheba was told by Solomon, that the creator created everything with positive and negative, and like the Chinese concept yin and yang, and except for the creator, everything has the opposite poles. So this is another ability. And then he was able to go into people's mind and to see what that person sees or hears or experiences. So he would enter into that person's body or astral body and to really get the sensations from that person. And then he developed the ability of what I mentioned before, to manipulate the actions of that person, and then installing the memories of that action of that person, so that when that person wakes up or maybe realizes it, then he wouldn't be surprised at his actions. And then he was able to not only to materialize objects, but also to have an out-of-body experience, to see what happens to his body. Because when he came to the North America branch of the lodge, he was actually some other, because of the jealousies of the North American branch of the people, and he was actually attacked by someone in New York City. And then he recovered really quickly because he was able to use his magic skills, psychic abilities, to leave his body and to make his body, physical body, recover faster than the other patients in the hospital. He was able to survive for 41 days after being buried underground. So I think a lot of people don't realize that this is doable. A lot of people think this is something fictional or something that's just the imagination of the author, or this is something that's too far out there. But I can tell you that it's doable, because if you really leave your body, if you really are able to practice what the yogis in India can practice, you can really reach the level of the psychic abilities of the author of this book to survive for 41 days below ground, being buried. And this is when he had the final realization that everything in the world is about love of the creator. Everyone is connected. And he realized that he has to make the change. And this is the reason he decided to really make the organization symbiosis relationship with the rest of the world, and not to cause a lot of conflicts. So during that period of time, and I did some research, there were less wars than previously or thereafter. So in the period in the 90s, there was a period of time in which it was a relatively peaceful world.
Interesting. You just said a mouthful there, Samuel. I will say this for everyone listening. We're getting into a space where there's going to certainly be people out there that are just like, this is nonsense. I don't believe any of it. That's impossible. There's going to be some people who are like, hey, that's demonic and occult, and I don't want to hear it. There's going to be people who are even kind of intrigued by it, interested and whatnot. I will say this from my standpoint. I don't necessarily want to get involved in any of that in my life, but it doesn't mean that I can't realize that it's out there and it's true. And it's know your enemy, so to speak, and understand the reality that is going on. That's kind of where I come from. And listen, it's if you look and you kind of just take a one step deeper dive on a lot of things, you'll start to see the patterns. There is zero knowledge out there really that, the United States government has been involved with trying to, do out of body experiences, reach the astral plane and whatnot through simple things like binaural beats. There's all kinds of programs that the CIA was running. There's declassified documents about this. All this stuff that you're talking about, it's out there in plain sight if you choose to look for it. And that's the thing that I would encourage people to do. I'm not advocating whatsoever, to necessarily get involved in it. I'm just saying it's the reality that we live in. And many people just have either blinders on or a blindfold, and they're not realizing that this is a reality. So I'll just say that, but it is interesting that you talked about, jealousy. The North American dudes were like, hey, we got to take this German guy out. It's this battle for the power structure, the power pyramid. But you were saying that the book indicates that there are definitely kind of two sides of the coin within this lodge. One side that wants absolute destruction, war, chaos, and everything, and the other side that wants better for the world. And those are obviously, it's the tale as old as time, just good and evil almost, battling it out within this lodge. And you're kind of indicating that the author might have been on that negative side for a while and then realized, hey, you know what? Let's do it another way.
Exactly. This is what happened after he encountered some of the spirits when he was buried underground for 41 days. He actually saw some of the spiritual people when he was buried. And then this is when he realized everything is connected and he wanted to make the change. And then he made some changes and trying to make changes of the lodge from the top. However, he discovered that there was a younger person who had the potential of developing stronger psychic abilities than he did.
Wow.
And he realized that it was too late to really kill that younger person, because the younger person had more allies than him at that time, even though he was the head of the lodge. And then it was too late, so that he wanted to disclose everything to the public, so that we can really become aware of what's happening in the world, and to really make the lodge be defeated on its own. Because according to him, it's impossible for you to call law enforcement to arrest members of the lodge. First of all, you don't know who they are. And second of all, even if you find out who they are, then if you send police people over there, they would use their psychic abilities to project false images to the policemen who want to arrest them. And then they can just escape that way. So there's no use to try the conventional methods to really get them. The only method that's going to be successful is for the public to wake up, so that the lodge can be destroyed from within.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And basically, this guy goes from, lack of a better word, bad guy to good guy. At the very end of his life, writes this book, disappears. But we notice, and he's the head of this lodge, we notice, let's put that mark down in 2001, where the world changed. And it hasn't, if you really think about history from 2001 even until present day, it has been in absolute chaos. I mean, I think a lot of people it's like the new norm, but it's not normal to have these endless wars that just continue and continue, and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars and lives and everything being spent. But something definitely shifted in that moment. And you believe that it is, in fact, him leaving and the next person coming in and having a different agenda, and hey, let's dance.
This is my suspicion, and I haven't got really any confirmations from the copyright holder. And I think it's because that there are people who were members of the lodge who got together and to start like a new one, and then to really do something bad in the world by causing a lot of conflicts. And if you really get into the conspiracy theories, some of the people who ran everything behind the scenes, like the deep state people or the people who manipulate the people in the deep state, they are associated with the occults, the people who use certain rituals to sacrifice others. And I want to say to those people, if you're in those occults or practices, you should realize that there are reincarnations. And when you pass, when you die, everything you did in your lifetime will be shown to you, as well as the reactions or the feelings of others. So if you sacrifice other people, the pains and sufferings of the children or the people will be felt by you. And then you're going to feel extremely remorseful and regretful. You're going to determine, or maybe you want to be like the victims in your next lifetime. So this is something that the author was really regretful about the things that he did, because he actually killed people and he tortured people as well, and he used drugs too, and he was really regretful of the actions that he did. But he really wanted to expose the things or the events that were associated with the lodge. He wanted the people to know, to reveal or expose the evil deeds of the lodge. So this is why he wrote a book. And remember, if you reveal anything about the lodge, you're going to be killed. And he risked that. And he really just did great things by revealing everything that happened. And part of the other information about the book is that I do believe that we had ancient civilizations. And a lot of the knowledge from the ancient civilizations, for example, the technologies to build the Great Pyramid or statues on Easter Island, a lot of the knowledge was lost. But for some reason, like certain members of the secret societies obtained such knowledge, especially the occult knowledge, or the knowledge to practice or develop these psychic abilities. So I think this is why they remain in the dark, behind the scenes, and are able to do the things that we normal people would think that those are just imagination or magic.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, they say that Hermes was the one who took the information to Nimrod. And Nimrod is, if you look into the Freemasonry stuff, he's a big part of the Freemasons. And yeah, here we go. We're off to the secret society connection right away. So very interesting. Um, his final message, this author, was to, abstain from crimes, uh, love in your heart. These, I don't know, principles that seem very opposite of the way he lived his life. Um, it remorse, regret? Was it understanding there's only one way to actually defeat this? What do you think it was in the end that brought him around? And then, obviously probably gave up his own life by revealing what he revealed.
Yeah, he actually, I would say, had this final realization after um, being buried in the ground underground, and then he had this kind of near-death experience, in the sense that he realized, because when you read the experiences of the people who had near-death experiences, you're going to realize they have all the realization or the knowledge that we people who live on Earth don't have. Because when your astral body leaves the physical body, then everything will be shown to you or known to you. This is why in the Bible it talks about the same thing. Like when you leave this world and everything will be shown to you, or whatever you do, like God or the Creator knows about it, something like that. In China, we have the same saying. It's just using different expressions. So I think this is when he had this kind of out of body experience, near death experience, he realized that how everything worked on Earth, and actually he met. And this is why I think the book is real. Is that he met a person, a very spiritual person, who played flute, a musical instrument, flute. And then he says that that person is very spiritual, but his son, the fourth son, is actually greater than all the other people in the world. And I actually found that person who played flute, and he passed away just a few years ago in India. And his name is Patrigi. If you look at him, if you search on the internet, Patrigi, you're going to find pictures of him playing flute. He is a very highly spiritual person. So I think a lot of the accounts in the book are real and true and can be verified. For example, there's another point in the book that's made that when you focus your mind for 6 hours into certain locations of your body or in the sky, then you can open like a tunnel in which everything that evolves in the universe of that portion will be shown to you. And that 6 hour is a very magical number, because in the other book, I think about prophecy, it talks about when they try to read people's mind to find out if the person committed a crime or not. It talks about the people whose mind were read by those cannot really concentrate for 6 hours that easily. But if you do that, according to the 334 per thousand lies, if you do that, you're going to open up tunnels in which most people cannot do that. So I think this is a very important message or important detail that made me believe that this book talks about the real methods to develop psychic abilities. But at the end of the book, it actually encourages people to understand how the universe works, because everything and everyone is connected, and you should love one another just like Christ preached when he was alive, and just follow the teachings of Christ.
Interesting. Man, like I said, I told you this before. I want to read this book. But I have not had a chance to read it yet. But as you were translating this book, and kind of in it, would you describe the ending as almost shocking compared to all the other things inside of it? It's like, I didn't see that coming, because it's pretty dark from what you said, correct?
It's pretty dark because at the end of the book, it talks about the Antichrist figure. that has stronger psychic abilities than the author. Like, although everything I described, what the author could do, that person, the Antichrist figure, can do more. But then the way to resolve this, to counter that, is through the actions of the mass, the unleashed actions of the mass. So this is why I think the book says that they fear the unleashed masses of the population. So this is a quote from the book. And I think I'll quote another sentence in the book. 1 million people concentrated with outraged emotions, holding one thought would be invincible. The large feared the public beyond all measure. So this is a quote from the book. I think it is important to have for us to have a grassroots movement, and allowing people to have the knowledge and to realize that there are things out there that they need to take account into, and to have collective actions and consciousness.
Yeah. Do you find it surprising that this book is even allowed to be out there, translated, and you can go and buy it on Amazon? I mean, is that surprising?
It's actually not very surprising because the copyright holder put it on Amazon, and then because it's self-published, it really didn't go through the normal process of being reviewed by a major publisher. And also, the book doesn't have the sensitive keywords that most some other books may have, so it got published on Amazon without any issues.
Oh, very interesting. So, if this book is even partly true, all right, and it is interesting how it starts like none of this book is true, and then it says this is all true, and all that stuff. It's kind of playing a game almost right at the onset. But if any of this is even partly true, I mean, what does that say for our world today? Who's pulling the strings?
To be very frank, I don't know. And then no one knows, because when I searched the name of the author, I couldn't find anything. They never appear in public and never reported by the media. They never hold public offices because they want to use their time to practice their psychic abilities and to develop the psychic abilities through meditation. So they get a lot of money indirectly or directly through consulting firms, and the people that they direct certain actions, or to manipulate the world, and but no one knows who they are. But the author actually gives a solution, which is really to really wake up, and don't be fooled by certain events that happen around you that makes you think, oh, this is just a normal event. You have to be really vigilant and alert. Some of the things that happen are like around you, and be suspicious of it. For example, like when you have a certain disease happening around you or to a lot of people, and then suddenly disappeared, then you have to think about whether it's something that's natural or something that's not natural. So if you really delve into that, if you do a lot of research, you're going to find out that, for example, naturally evolved diseases, they don't just disappear out of a sudden. They evolve because they took a long time to evolve in nature. They won't just disappear in a few months or few years. They're going to last very long unless we develop something to counter it. But when certain events or certain units come and go in such a short time, you need to think otherwise. And I'm Chinese, so I can read certain articles and research papers, and I have certain information in which I'm going to share with the public in person.
Very interesting. Very interesting, Samuel. What do you think? You talk about, hey, open your eyes, like actually look around. Don't just take what everyone's telling you as the gospel truth, because sometimes stuff is put out there to manipulate, obfuscate, and not give you the whole truth. So be curious and investigate on your own. You're saying that. One of the craziest things, Samuel, that is happening right now that most people who watch this probably know, but I think worldwide, a lot of people just are like, whatever, I don't know. We're basically getting a soft form of alien disclosure going on. It's been going on for a number of years, but the videos that they're showing, the Hellfire missile hitting the UAP and bouncing off of it, and these different things they're showing. I mean, you would think people would be like, wow, but no, everyone's just kind of like, oh, whatever. I mean, have we gotten that complacent? And do you think that in any way, this book, the author, his message, this lodge, in any way connects with, I mean, we know it connects with ancient power, but does it connect possibly with this future thing, possibly aliens?
I think it's definitely connected to modern technologies, because the book talks about how they were able to control the traditional organizations, but then the newer technology companies, especially in Silicon Valley, they were gradually going to control them. And I think they achieved their goals already. So I think they at least influenced some of the decisions made by the tech companies. But I think it could be also a natural evolution of the technology companies that we'll see today. And this is why I think the other book, Theory of Prophecy, that I try to encourage people to read, is so important, because it talks about how technology should be assisting our spiritual development, and not to really lead us into a more materialistic world in which people want to accumulate wealth, or maybe just be immersed in the videos or short-term entertainments provided by the mobile phones or cell phones. So I think it's very important for people to realize that we are actually experiencing a very interesting time. We can really do something good for the humanity in the future, or keep doing what the tech companies really want us to do. So I think it's a double-edged sword. Technology is something that can really benefit us, but currently I think is causing a lot more harm than benefits.
Yeah, and it's a snowball rolling down a hill. It's an avalanche, because no one's going to stop with AI and everything else, because no one wants the other company and or other country to get ahead. It's just this battle. They call it the AI arms race, and it really is reflective of an arms race where it's just going to keep on going. And as that happens, I think there will come a moment in time where people got to make choices and decisions, about technology. So very, very, very fascinating conversation. And I mean, I just appreciate you coming on and talking about it and bringing this to light. For people out there who are interested in getting 334% lies, what advice would you give them going in and reading it, and just kind of your overall take?
I think this book is definitely not for everyone, because for an average reader, this would be like a science fiction to them.
Yeah.
And I think people need to have the knowledge about, or a certain occult knowledge, or the knowledge how psychic world works, and to practice certain psychic feasts. You have to have the foundations of knowledge in order to really understand this book. So this book is something that I wouldn't suggest to everyone to read. Only people who have certain knowledge already. And I would suggest people to read the other book first, Theory of Prophecy. And then if you get certain feelings, or if you feel that Theory of Prophecy is a good book, then read this one. Because once you have the foundation of knowledge, this book then can open your eyes further.
Very cool. Any key final takeaways or any thoughts you want to share with the audience apart from that?
I think if you're an old soul, you're going to be okay with the information provided in the book. If you're a young soul, then you're probably going to only believe in what the textbooks say, which is okay. I mean, we all evolve through the different reincarnations. We have memories that are in our astral body. And if you remember your past lives, or if you have the memories from your past lives, then I think this book may be good for you.
Very cool. Very cool. Hey, man, thank you so much for joining me again. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
I can tell you, man, if even part of this story is true, wow, that's all I can say. So, thank you, Samuel Chong, ladies and gentlemen. He's awesome. I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you. Whether you agree with what you just heard tonight or not, one thing is clear. There are layers of belief, power, influence, and ideology in this world that most people never stop to examine. This episode isn't about fear, it's about discernment. It's about questioning narratives instead of blindly accepting them. If this conversation challenged you even a little, support the show right now. Subscribe, like this episode, share it with someone who still values real discussion. You can also become a YouTube channel member for early access exclusive content and custom emojis. And for uncensored bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes conversations, and deeper dives, join the agents of The Ryan Files at patreon.com/The Ryan Files. And don't forget, if you're on the go, you can listen to The Ryan Files anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every major platform. You folks are awesome. Be amazing, be positive, and stay curious out there, my friends. And I'll see you next time right here on The Ryan Files.
Are you not curious?
Preparing to transfer the Ryan files. Now.
I present to you, with great intrigue and wonder, the Ryan Files.